Hey, what's up you guys? My name's Tyler Rugge. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today's video, we are going to be talking about my Bioactive Hedgehog setup. This has been a video that's been requested a ton ever since I first set up my Bioactive Hedgehog enclosure. A lot of people have been asking me to do updates on it and how it's doing and stuff like that. And I've just been waiting until I've had it up and going for a while so I could give you guys a rundown of how exactly it went for me, things that I changed, things I liked, things I disliked, and just overall how I feel about doing a bioactive setup for a hedgehog. And if you guys haven't seen the video I did a few months ago where I actually set it up, then I'll link it down in the description below. I would recommend going and watching it so you guys kind of have an idea for what I'm talking about. To give you guys an overview, basically, in case you don't know what a bioactive setup is, it's a setup that is self-sustaining, so you pretty much shouldn't have to clean the substrate out. There's going to be isopods in there and some insects and things that are going to eat up the waste. There's also going to be live plants in there. And another big idea behind bioactive setups is kind of recreating your animal's natural environment within their enclosure. Because a lot of people who have hedgehogs usually just have their hedgehogs on paper bedding. They might have a couple plastic hides, obviously a wheel, and then a food and water dish. Might have some toys in there, and then that's about it. And that's pretty much the standard for hedgehogs in America, at least. That's how most people just keep their pet hedgehogs. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I came across the idea of doing bioactive setups. It's something that a lot of people do for their hedgehogs, I believe, in Germany. The only downside to this is that when I was researching stuff on how to set up a bioactive enclosure and I was trying to get ideas for it, there weren't really any articles I could find that were in English because there aren't a lot of people here in America that have done this, or at least people who have advertised doing it online. So there was a blog that I followed that I found that was in English of someone who did a bioactive setup for their hedgehog, and that's what I followed as far as ideas for when I was setting mine up. So I didn't really get to do a ton of research on it because there just isn't that much information out there. I just kind of followed this one blog and did what they said to do, and there were some things I didn't like, some things that didn't necessarily work out for me, and I ended up changing, and I'm going to be talking about that today. But yeah, I'm just going to start off with kind of what I did and things that I changed. So to start off, for the bioactive setup, I did a soil mixture in the bottom layer, and this is just kind of where I wanted the cleanup crew to live. The dwarf white isopods I put in there. I think I put in some springtails and some mealworms or superworms. And then I put in dubia roaches. And not only do these serve as a cleanup crew, but my hedgehog loves to dig into the substrate and hunt for worms and for roaches, and it's super, super cute. I'm gonna get into that and show videos of that. But yeah, I did a soil mixture on the bottom layer, and then on the top I did excavator clay. And for the excavator clay, basically what it is it's like a moist, sandy mixture that you put on top, and then it hardens and it turns into almost like a rock-like texture. And I actually personally didn't like the excavator clay. It just didn't really work out good for me. I found that it was hard for the cleanup crew to burrow into the substrate because they had to get past the excavator clay and they couldn't. Also, my hedgehog would pee on the excavator clay, and the excavator clay would absorb the pee and it would just kind of smell bad. So I decided to take out the excavator clay. I just scooped up the top half of my substrate, threw it away, and I replaced it with more soil and eco-earth, and I put some cypress mulch in there, and I like it a lot better just with dirt in there, basically. I just found that the excavator clay didn't work out well for me personally. I just didn't like it. So I decided to take that out. Also, originally, when I set up my bioactive setup for my hedgehog, I had a bunch of different plants I put in there. I did a snake plant, I did some succulents, and I did a couple other things. I don't remember exactly what. But the thing about that is all my plants pretty much died besides the snake plants, and I'm not sure exactly why. I think part of it might just be I'm bad at taking care of plants, but also I do blame Momo 100% for this because she did uproot the plants a lot and shred them up and nest with them, so that obviously didn't help them survive or thrive in any way. The only plant that Momo didn't shred up was the snake plant, so I decided to plant more snake plants in there because those are the only things that I could get to stay and actually live in there. And Momo still does sometimes uproot them, but it's not a big deal because I can just stick them back in the ground and it's not the end of the world. They're still gonna live. They're very hardy plants. But again, I'm not a huge plant person. I'm just not good with them. I'm an animal person. So I personally really like the snake plant. Not only do I like the way they look, but they're really hardy. So for someone like me who isn't good at taking care of plants, it's just the perfect option. So the main two things that I changed that I didn't like was, although all the plants looked good, Momo disagreed and decided to shred them. So I went with snake plants instead. I just have snake plants in there now. It's the only plant I have. Second thing, again, that I changed was I got rid of the excavator clay and just made the substrate completely pretty much dirt and mulch. And then, like I said, for the cleanup crew, I put mealworms, superworms in there, dubia roaches, isopods. I get a lot of questions about whether or not, first of all, I get a lot of questions about, don't the bugs like escape from the cage? Because as you can see, my hedgehog isn't in a tank. It's in just a wire cage. And to answer that, no, my bugs never actually get out of here. And it was never really a concern of mine that they would escape. Like, it was kind of something that was a little bit like, I wonder if it'll happen, but it wasn't a huge concern of mine for two reasons. First of all, there is you can't even really see it, but there is a pan at the bottom that's probably about this deep. So I fill it up probably about halfway with dirt, and then the rest of the way is just a smooth plastic material that dubia roaches and superworms and everything can't climb up. So they can't even climb up the plastic sides of the cage. And I guess the only other way they could get out is by climbing up the plants and then getting out of the cage that way. But they don't, because they tend to just burrow into the dirt. So they aren't really trying to escape the cage. The first thing they do when I put them in there is they either like run under a log or something, or they just burrow into the substrate. So they aren't even really trying to escape, they just burrow into the dirt because that's what they want to do. And that's why I have them in there. So to answer anyone's question, no, none of the bugs ever escape. That's never been an issue for me. The other question I get, of course, is whether or not I have to clean the cage, because it is bioactive. It's supposed to be self-sustaining. Hedgehogs pee and poop a ton. Bioactive setups are pretty common in America for reptiles, but reptiles don't poop as much as hedgehogs do. Nowhere near as much as hedgehogs. Hedgehogs poop so much. If you have a hedgehog, you understand the struggle. Hedgehogs just poop not only all over their cage, but all over their wheel. And to answer your question, no. I have never cleaned the substrate ever, except for when I replaced the excavator clay. But aside from that, I've never had any issues with poop building up on the surface. I think the cleanup crew does a really good job of taking care of that. You just need to make sure you're replenishing the cleanup crew, because obviously your hedgehog is going to eat some of the cleanup crew, especially as soon as I put the cleanup crew in there. Momo runs around and is like hunting for the bugs. They do a really good job, so I never have to clean the substrate. The substrate, the cage itself, does not smell bad at all. So those are mostly the reasons why I like the Hedgehog bioactive setup. It's obviously a lot easier for me. It's more work to actually start it up, but once you have it going, it's a lot less maintenance than your classic setup for a hedgehog. But aside from that, what's mostly important is whether or not it works for Momo, my hedgehog, whether or not she likes it. I have experimented with a few different types of hedgehog setups, and this is by far my favorite option. Momo loves it a lot more too, and I can genuinely tell that. First of all, she is always running around exploring, and she just seems so much more occupied, if that makes sense. Like, I remember when I had her in a normal cage, a lot of the time she would try to like climb up the sides of the cage, and that can be a sign that your hedgehog isn't getting enough stimulation, it doesn't have enough to do, and it's bored. Not only does she have a big space to roam around, but she has the logs and different pieces of wood and plants that kind of give her just things to do. And another thing that she loves to do that I really love about this is she loves to hunt for bugs. So in the wild, hedgehogs love to dig in the ground and look for bugs to eat. And that's not something that they always get to do in captivity. People do give their hedgehog bugs, usually just in a little dish, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. Bugs are an important part of a hedgehog's diet though, and what I really like to do is I just get some dubia roaches or some mealworms, and I'll just dump them straight into the cage, and they'll just kind of run around the cage, they'll burrow into the dirt. And as soon as I dump bugs in there, Momo's like running around her cage, hunting for insects, she's digging in the dirt, and she just has a lot of fun with it. And it's so cool to see her do that because it's like part of their instincts. And I think it's really good enrichment for them because, again, it's something that they do in the wild. So giving her the opportunity to do that in her cage in captivity, I think is really, really good for her. I think that's pretty much everything. So just to recap, the only things I really didn't like about the setup when I first set it up was the excavator clay and Momo killing all of my plants besides the snake plant. So would I recommend you to do a bioactive setup for your hedgehog? My answer is yes. I think that it is a great thing to try out. I don't think maybe it's not for everyone. It is a lot of work to put in to start it up, but in my opinion, it is worth it 100% because it's a lot less maintenance to keep up with than a regular setup. It's a lot less cleaning. You don't have to keep buying bags of bedding. I know some people like to do like fleece blankets, and that's another option as well that I tried before and I didn't like it because she would poop all over it and step all over her poop and stuff. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about this bioactive setup for my hedgehog and how it went, or just any questions, let me know down in the comments below and I'll try to answer them for you guys. If you guys like this video, you found it helpful, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and also follow me on all my social media links. Those will be linked down in the description below. And I will see you guys in my next video.